Hello, everybody. Welcome back to, this is now week 3. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm sorry for shaking the camera. I hope you guys are doing really well with this program and taking it seriously. I know a lot of people have struggled with us doing it in the summer. Some of that is the 4th of July. That was a tough one for me too. But hopefully now you're back on and doing well. Today we're going to take some time and talk a little bit about a lot of people's favorite subject, which is medication and surgery. I'm going to talk quickly about surgeries and why I do recommend surgery and when I don't recommend surgery, and then we'll start talking about medications. Research has shown that if you have a BMI of over 40, diet and weight loss is probably not going to cut it for long term. Part of that is this thought that fat cells they duplicate, but they don't ever regress or break. So what happens is when you gain weight, you produce adipose cells gain in size, and then after they gain so much size, then they actually split and they reproduce another fat cell. The problem is once you've hit that and you try to lose that weight, you only shrink the adipose cells, you don't actually remove the adipose cells. So because of that, it's quicker to gain weight again. So you see a lot of people, there's a lot of, the huge accomplishment to keep weight loss off for over 5 years. Part of that is because of the fat cells. There is some things that people can use. One, we actually have it here in the hospital. Cold sculpting has been shown to break fat cells. It is extremely expensive. You didn't know about that?
I didn't know it really, I thought it was, I wondered just like a gimmick. Oh, I didn't say that on the video. Can we record that out?
Yes, I know when Dr. Watts did that.
It's not a cure-all.
Yeah, and it doesn't. You still got to have diet.
Yes. So.
And don't you already have to be within like 30 pounds of your goal or something?
Well, let me give you some examples of how you can use it. So cold sculpting, one of the reasons why I was very interested in this is we were actually talking before that I have a very good friend who's a dermatologist in Colorado, and she uses cold sculpting. But one of the things they recommend with cold sculpting is not only do you do it, you exercise right after. So when they rupture the fat cells, you burn it. And so it can help. It's not an end-all be-all, but it will help you sculpt. So if you're a person who always gets fat and you're behind and you're like, you know what, I don't want to have a big butt anymore, you can use it that way and you can sculpt your body. That's why it's called cold sculpting. It does work. Research behind that does actually prove that you can use it. And it's not an end-all be-all, but it is an answer. So that's something to think about, is that actually it does rupture cells and it can help you with that in that aspect. So when we talk about bariatric surgery, you've got 3 kinds. You've got the lap band, you have the sleeve, and you have the Roux-en-Y. The lap band is basically helps, as most of you know, it's just a ring around the stomach to try to keep the stomach smaller so you keep smaller portions. As I've said before, if you just drink milkshakes, it goes straight through that lap band and you can still gain weight. That's a big issue. So one of the things that they use lap bands really well for is people who do what we call binge eating. People who go all day without eating, and then what they decide to do is when they go home, they've been all day without food, and they say, oh, I can eat a larger portion of food because I've been without food all day. A lap band helps prevent that. So it's very good in that instance. If you're a picker and you like to eat all day, every day, and you get a little candy here, a little cake there, the lap band is not going to help you because you're never expanding your stomach enough to cause you to not be hungry and you're still intaking a ton of calories. The sleeve, it's a mixture between, it's the next step before Roux-en-Y. Or when I say Roux-en-Y, that's also understood to be gastric bypass. With the sleeve, what it does is every time you eat, you stretch out that stomach. The stretching of the stomach is what actually makes you feel like you're full. It releases endorphins, well, not endorphins, hormones, and some endorphins. And it makes you feel good, makes you happy, and makes you feel full. The problem is for most of us, we've overeaten for so long that our stomach has stayed at a large size. Before somebody goes through a Roux-en-Y procedure, they actually have to go on a liquid diet. One of the reasons why they do that is to try to shrink the stomach as best they can before they take part of the stomach out. Same thing happens with the sleeve. You still want some of the stomach. You don't want to take all of the stomach out because there are zones of the stomach that dissolve certain proteins, fats, carbohydrates. You get those enzymes in the stomach. So if you take all of one zone out of the stomach, you start to not be able to break down food. So that's one thing to consider with the sleeve. The problem with the sleeve is you can still grow your stomach back. That's the concern, is that it may be a temporary fix, and if you continue to eat the way you have always done, you're not going to lose the weight. You're actually going to gain it back. Last but not least is the Roux-en-Y. The reason why this is the most important one is, and the one that I recommend the most, is because it actually is the one that produces the most weight loss. The reason being is it not only gives you the sleeve, but it also restructures your intestines. And the way they do that, you don't absorb as much food. So even if you were to eat, your body doesn't absorb as much. That can be good and bad. That's why bariatric patients, we have to look for vitamin levels, iron levels, and other nutrients, because we basically said we don't want you to absorb everything you eat. It's a very helpful and beneficial procedure, and something that you should really consider if you're struggling and you've been over a BMI of 40 and really not getting weight loss. I always tell people diet and exercise is best, but if diet and exercise is not working for you, really let's look at bariatric. Next, let's talk about medications and why medications are really exciting right now. The one that everybody knows about and the one that's been around the longest is Adipex. Part of the reason why Adipex has been such a success is basically it makes people just not want to eat. The problem with Adipex is it's a controlled substance and it's very highly regulated. We have to think back to the 1990s when we started looking at fen-phen. Fen-phen worked really well for people, except for they started having heart issues. They retooled fen-phen and started making phentermine. That's the part of the fen and fen-phen. Phentermine is now a legal substance because phentermine was not causing issues with the heart. So they just took part of the fen-phen and made it phentermine. Problem I've noticed with phentermine is after somebody's been on it 1 or 2 times, it doesn't seem like it works very well for weight loss. Because of this, usually if somebody's used it more than once or twice, it's not going to produce the 15 pounds of weight loss that people are expecting. Average weight loss on Adipex is only 15 pounds. There are some ways around that. However, the state of Ohio won't let us use it that way. The reason why I'm saying that is because in other studies it's been shown that if you take Adipex every other day, you get increased weight loss. The law in Ohio says that you only have 90 days to write the prescription. So if you're not using them daily, we can't use them. So that's my concern with Adipex, because most people who probably in this class, if they've tried a medication, that's one of the medications they've tried. Now let's start moving to other classes. Really, the only other one that's actually been proving to be worth anything. We used to have Qsemi that's not longer working. Contrave. I have not seen good results with Contrave. The only one that's ever worked was Saxenda. And a lot of you have heard me talk about Saxenda. It causes you to not want to eat. But it also works on the stomach. It slows down your digestive system so that you have more time to process your food. It also sends a chemical signal to your brain that says, you're full, stop here. When most of us have gained weight, we've lost the signal from our stomach to our brain to say we've had too much. this brings that back. The side effects of it are things that you would think of that would be caused with slowing down of your stomach. That would be acid reflux and constipation. The other issue with it would be, and that kind of ties in with constipation and acid reflux, is that you don't want to drink enough water. Because you feel satisfied, your stomach's not craving for something, you don't want to drink. That actually really brings up a good point. Sometimes when we're hungry, it's not that we're hungry, it's that we're dehydrated. But your body calls and your stomach calls you to say, put something in me. We may interpret that as food when really the body's actually asking for fluid. So be careful, know your body. If you've had food, think, is this because I need more water? So Saxenda has done really good. Research has shown to have 8 to 9% body weight reduction. So for a 200-pound person, that's 18 to 20 pounds. That's usually in about 3 to 6 months. It is also indicated after that to help continue people who have struggled with overeating. So even after you've reached your weight loss goal, you can continue to take it to help suppress your appetite. That has led us to one other of the newest medications, which is called Wegovy. A lot of people have heard this. This is basically Ozempic for not for diabetics, but for weight loss. They're boasting 17% weight loss reduction in a year. That is actually very close to what you would get after a gastric sleeve. So for a 200-pound person, let's round up the weight loss to about 20%. That's 40 pounds on a 200-pound person. That really brings somebody who's morbidly obese into a healthy range within a year. That is really impressive. If you look at it even higher than that, you see somebody who's at 250, that's 50 pounds. That gets them to being morbidly obese to just overweight, and that's really impressive. Well, no. If you are morbidly obese at 200 pounds, so that would be your 5'1" person. A 5'1" person, 200 pounds, would be morbidly obese. Sorry, let me clarify that. I don't want to give anybody else a heart attack. I'm not that good to know every BMI but I do know that one. So the important part about the medication is the research that showed that you could lose the weight with Wegovy was that you only had to have a calorie reduction of 500 calories a day. For a lot of people, that's nothing. That's skipping 2 sodas. That's skipping a cookie that you have every day. That with a 30-minute exercise 3 days a week gets you that weight loss in a year. And that's, I think, the most exciting part of this, that you don't have to go through surgery to get surgery quality weight loss. And that's huge. Because if you do anything over that, and I'm not telling you to starve yourself, you type A people who decide they only want to have 500 calories a day and then run 5 miles, that's not how you lose weight. But for the rest of us that really are trying to look for sensible weight loss, Wegovy is a very good possibility. If you're interested, they are offering 6-month trial for $25. Ask your doctor. If they don't know how to get it to you, they can come talk to me or you can come see me. But it is something that really should be able to work. And it should be able to work for most of us. If you're a diabetic, talk to your doctor about Ozempic. Don't talk to them about Wegovy because it is the same molecule. So you'll get the same results. Now let's talk about how we can increase our weight loss with that. One of the things the reason why they've postulated Wegovy and Saxenda work is really sugar metabolism. It helps with maintaining steady state sugar, so you're not craving. That's why I've always been so big with low carbohydrate diets. That's why we were working with South Beach Diet. That's why I'm an advocate of keto diet, is because what we have to do is get rid of sugar. Sugar is the unbeknownst devil to us, and that's where the Wegovy works. It helps us to have from having cravings because of sugar spikes and from peaks and troughs. That's one of the big benefits. Now, if you want to know more, my recommendation when you go to your physician is to have an open conversation about medication. But go in with a plan. We've given you a ton of material on South Beach Diet. If you want to choose another diet, go for it. But have a diet plan. Next, I used to say meal prepping was the most important part. I still think it is the most important part. However, if you're like me and you're busy, you don't want to spend all Saturday or Sunday prepping your meals for the next week, because maybe on Tuesday you want tacos and maybe on Friday you want a pizza. And the truth is you can have those if you do it right. Most of the times, even on keto, you can have a pizza on keto if you do it right. So my suggestion is find about 14 meals that you like. Most of us have only 14 meals on our repertoire as it is. We've got our taco night, we've got our meatloaf night, we've got our, pasta night, and those are our go-to, even with our kids. Use about 14 meals and plan something every single night. If you're like me, who really thinks that pizza on Friday nights should be a national holiday, figure out your pizza that you're going to have on Friday nights after work, and put that into place so that when you realize, hey, for this meal, I want to have pizza, you have the right food, right way of doing it, and you can make it right there on the spot. Because the other thing I absolutely cannot stand is cold food and reheated food. So I don't want to reheat something I made on Sunday to eat on Friday afternoon. That right there is not appetizing. So use that as your way instead of having to meal prep early. The next thing is have an exercise plan. We're going to talk a little bit about protein and exercise here in a little bit, but my suggestion is have a plan. What that means is figure out on, and I'll give you an example for me. So it works best for me to run Monday mornings, Saturdays, and Sundays. So that's 3 days of exercise. If I can get it on Tuesday night and Friday morning, I'll add those two in. But I know that on Mondays, Saturdays, and Sundays, I can get a run in. The same thing should happen for you guys. Say that these are the 3 days that I can try to get it in, and if I have 2 extra days in different times to get maybe my fail. So if you weren't able to get that exercise in on those 3 days, you have a backup day. But if you go ahead and start planning those days to have exercise or to be physically active, then you have something to fall back to. You do those two things, weight loss is really going to be fail-proof. Yeah, we'll talk about there are some ways that we can fail, but if you start to really plan that way, you're going to find that weight loss is a lot easier. I'm going to talk about one other thing here, and that, again, we'll talk about is not eating enough. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but the truth is there are times that you can put yourself in a starvation state. I don't want you type A people who really want to hold off and try not to eat anything and exercise, all the calories away. That's not healthy, okay? Steady weight loss is better than massive weight loss and then regain. All right, you guys have any questions for me today? Sure? Anybody else? All right, guys, I'm going to pass it to Natasha. If you need anything, let me know. You ready? Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Today I'm covering the importance of protein intake and strength training. Excuse my nose, it's a little stuffy. But why is protein important? Does anybody know? Yes. Yes, so it makes you feel fuller I don't know if you can hear that or not. But it takes your body a little bit longer to digest protein rather than just eating like an empty carb, like something with a cup of sugar in it. It's going to sit in your stomach a little bit longer and take longer to digest. Protein is one of the 3 essential macronutrients. So you have carbs, fat, and protein. And everybody always talks about carbs, and they're very important, obviously, but protein is one that gets often overlooked. And just even specifically for that reason, if you're getting enough protein in your diet, it's going to help you feel more full, which also hopefully helps with those carb cravings. Protein actually helps your body repair cells and make new ones. So it's considered the building block of life. So what does protein do? If your intake is low, you may have like muscle wasting, especially if you're in like a weight loss phase, where you're trying to lose weight and you're also not eating enough protein. Your body could potentially go after those muscles that you potentially worked so hard to build, or you naturally have muscles. Your body can potentially eat away at those and cause muscle wasting. Does anybody know how much protein is recommended? A lot of people, it just sits in the back of your head, you don't even think about protein. The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics recommendation is that average individuals consume 0.35 grams per pound of body weight per day. So if you're a 200-pound individual, you'd multiply that by 0.35, and you've got 70 grams of protein per day. And I don't know research on like how much protein people actually intake if they're not tracking anything, but I would assume it's much lower than that. And depending on what diet you're doing, protein intakes can vary in the recommendations, but that one comes from, like I said, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. But different programs, and especially depending on what type of strength training you're doing or what type of, if you're looking to build muscle, you might have a higher protein recommendation, intake recommendation as well. So what is hard is sometimes finding ways to consume protein and not making it monotonous and having the same thing at every meal, like Dr. Ross was saying. For some people, the meal prepping works. Sometimes it doesn't. What works for me, I don't mind reheated food. But in my case, how I make sure I get enough protein is that I'm horrible at meal prepping, but if at the beginning of the week, if I can make sure that I have prepped my proteins for the week, or at least for lunch and dinner, then I'm probably going to have a pretty good week. And then with that, and I live off of, I like mixing it up a little bit, but there's only so far that I go out. So I might cook 3 pounds of lean beef, and then I prepare it a different way every night. So one night I might throw taco seasoning on it and make tacos. I might throw it in pasta another night, or with some veggies or whatever, and I might save a pound to make hamburgers with the beef. So that personally is what works for me. If I can just make sure that I have my protein sources ready to go, I can kind of mix anything with it. If I have a bag of frozen veggies in the fridge or freezer, whatever, just something simple and ready to go. That way I know that I'll be able to pull that out and not have to worry about cooking it, because I'm also really lazy and I hate cooking. But there are little things you can do to increase that protein. Do you guys have any go-to protein intake sources that you find work for you? Everybody always loves different ones. I'll give you a couple of mine and then I'm going to ask. So Greek yogurt is a big one, rather than like regular yogurt might only have a gram or 2 of protein in it if you had like a little container. But Greek yogurt is typically going to have like 10 to 12 grams of protein in the same little container, but some people hate Greek yogurt. So protein bars and powder are big for me. Even in recent years, I've even gotten lazier, and I like the pre-prepared protein drinks that are already like liquid mixed up, and I just have to take it out of the fridge and can drink it or mix it with my coffee or whatever. Eggs in any form are super helpful. So if it's breakfast, I'll cook the eggs, or I can do like a little egg bake, whereas boiled eggs are good to like throw in a salad, or some people I think eat boiled eggs for breakfast. That's not for me, but some people do it. And then meat, especially so lean meats are going to be the better option because they're typically lower in fat, but depending on what you're doing, your diet might allow for that higher fat like the keto, and I think South Beach sometimes is a little bit higher in fat too. All right, does anybody else have a different protein source that I know I listed a couple? Chicken every day. Yeah, me too.
I burn out on everything that I was eating.
Oh. Okay.
I kind of fell on a protein bar a lot.
Okay.
But that's too much.
Too much protein? I think, so you always hear, I don't know like the research behind this, and if you guys didn't hear the question, was it, can you have too much protein? I know at a certain point, like there's a concern about how much your kidneys can handle, but I think, at least from what I know, it has to be a pretty high amount of protein that you're taking, and it also matters that you're like, again, with hydration is huge with protein. So we even have people that'll come to the gym and will recommend like, yeah, you're trying to do some strength training, you need to have also eat some protein. And they'll come back and they've been constipated or whatever, and they're like, this is not working, what is it? And we're like, well, did you drink any extra water? How much water did you drink yesterday? And they're like, one of those 16-ounce bottles. Like, that's it. So then they tried the same thing, and realistically, the protein intake for the day might have been like 60 grams of protein, but because you're dehydrated, your body's, it's definitely different to digest it. But like, I don't do this personally, but when I was in like a really big muscle building phase, I was consuming almost 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So much higher than the 0.35. But that's my personal experience that I was doing. And that was a lower carb, lower fat diet where the protein was taking up a lot of my calories too. But I don't know the limit of what would be considered too much, but I'm sure there is one, definitely. That's good. Any other protein sources? What's your go-to?
Chicken.
Chicken? Okay. All right. Chicken is, and it's a lean protein. Do you guys do like chicken breasts, chicken thighs, different kinds of chicken? White meat? Okay. I know, personally, that's why I get sick of chicken, but that's because I only will eat chicken breast. Like anything else is, I just don't like it. Yeah. And looking at Pinterest is huge for me because it has, and I like the different ways of cooking. So like you've got Instapots, crock pots, however you can cook stuff that's fast and easy. I'm all about it. But Pinterest, and I find that I gravitate towards like the Weight Watchers recipes. Unknowingly, I'll pull up a recipe and I'm always like, oh, this is in Weight Watchers. But they have a lot of low calorie, higher protein meals that are different, and I like that. Oh. No, I just hit a button. Is it okay? It's just not full screen anymore. Okay. Good. Oh yeah, pause are stuck, but it looks like it's still going. Okay. All right. What is strength training? What do you guys think of when you hear strength training? Like meatheads at a gym, what comes to mind? Yes, and that's typically what it is. And so strength training is It's helpful. It's necessary. The American College of Sports Medicine recommends at least 2 days of strength training each week. The definition, I tried to find the most basic one that I could of strength training, and it's an exercise that causes muscles to contract against external resistance. So obviously, your typical meathead in a gym is performing strength training, but that's not the only way to do it. And there are tons of different pieces of equipment that you can use to get strength training. The goal of strength training is to help strengthen your muscles. And I don't want to say the more muscle you have, but if you're focusing on muscles, having more strength is going to help boost your metabolic rate. It'll protect your body from injury. It makes your activities of daily living a little bit easier. And that's pretty much it. But go ahead.
Isn't it true, though, that you don't necessarily have to lift weights?
Right.
When you use your body,
right.
Then you're doing strength training.
Exactly.
Even like bands or anything.
Yes, any type of resistance. So that was my next point. So I had listed, it doesn't have to be, in a gym, sitting on a bench doing bench presses with barbells. You can use any equipment like tubing or dumbbells or a water bottle or bricks, performing some type of manual labor. That's also some type of strength training where you're putting a resistance on those muscles. And it's not even necessarily to get bigger muscles or anything. It's just to keep them functioning. It's going to help your overall health. And especially with COVID, it has really helped with online resources because strength training, resistance training, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't have to be done in a gym. You can do it at your house. You can do it anywhere. You can do it with your body. Literally is weight. You have exercises that you can do with just yourself, which is nice. And then because of COVID, the amount of online resources have massively increased, but especially things that you can do at home because everybody was at home complaining about the COVID-15 or the COVID-19 pounds. I've heard it all, and everybody seems to have gained weight during that massive shutdown. We were just not doing normal things. And the amount of even over at the gym when we were shut down, our trainer Nicole was doing online videos. I think she had a set of dumbbells at her house, and she would get on Facebook and do a live video of just her exercising in her basement, and we posted them for people to follow along. And I think a ton of those resources are still out there. So if you want, because gyms are scary, like I said, they're not necessary, and a lot of people, they don't do well in a gym setting. That's not the case, and then they feel like, oh man, I'm not going to the gym. I'm failing. I can't do anything. Some people thrive better in the gym knowing that they have some place to go, or maybe you were going to I think it's called Hartman Fitness right down the road. They have group classes. My recommendation is to find what works for you and do it. And sometimes it can be different in different phases of life. I can tell you in the past 3 years, I did the gym thing where I was doing heavy lifting. I did a CrossFit phase where I was going to a CrossFit gym. I had the COVID phase where I was doing everything at my house. Things just look different whenever you just have to do what works for you, but you have to do it. And it's not easy ever. But that's the hard part, is just doing it. And also starting. So like Dr. Ross, I like that recommendation of having a schedule where he knows on Monday or Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, there were 3 days a week where he said, okay, I know I can get the runs in. But if something were to come up on Monday, he knows that Tuesday evening or whatever, you have that backup day. What happens a lot of times is if you have that backup day, you failed the first day and then you're like, oh no, it's Tuesday. Okay, I can do it tonight. And then you just don't. So you just have to do it. It may not be fun. It's probably not your favorite thing ever. But it's necessary. And at least 2 days a week, that's the recommendation. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but a little bit of movement to get those muscles, at least the strength training portion. The recommendation is 2 days a week. So that might look like you doing a half an hour of a full body resistance training program with a water bottle at your house. And then you go for a half-hour walk after that, and that's one of your days of cardio a week and one of your days of strength training, out in an hour. It sounds easy, but then you have to actually do it, right? But back to strength training. Okay, so breaking down the basics of strength training. Ideally, the goal is to hit every muscle group 2 times a week. So I think that goes right along with the overall recommendation of doing some type of strength training 2 days a week. But that also means that if you're only doing the strength training 2 days a week, you'd want it to be like some type of full body program where you're using your upper body and your lower body, all of the bigger muscle groups in your body. Basically, if you go a week and you say it's your chest and the microphone, say it's your chest and you did push-ups in today's program, and then Friday you did like a lower body program, you're not touching those chest muscles again until the next time you do it. So that's the recommendation, I think, because of you want to touch each muscle group at least 2 times a week, just to have the most benefit. There are different ways to go about that and hitting each muscle group 2 times a week. And you can work each muscle group more than 2 times a week. That's also something that people are like, don't do too much. If you did Monday, Wednesday, Friday of the same thing, it's not going to hurt you typically unless you're doing something crazy or wrong. But to do what's manageable for you and to start small. So that's even working over at the gym. That's one of the biggest mistakes that I see is that people join the gym and they're all ready, especially in January. You all know about the January gym rushes. You probably have been one of those people. I've been one of those people, but you're ready and you have goals and you're ready to hit them. So what happens is you start coming to the gym and you're like, okay, I've got a plan. I'm going to follow this program. And you come to the gym 5 to 7 days a week. And you do that for like 3 weeks, and you're like, this is horrible, and I hate the gym, and I don't want to come back here. I'm not enjoying it anymore. And then you just don't come back. And that's the biggest mistake that I see is just you have your goals, and you're all set, and you're motivated now, but in a few weeks when it gets hard, it's easy to lose that motivation, and you're like, well, I'm 3 weeks in. I've lost 1 pound. My goal is to lose 15 pounds in 3 weeks. What's happening? And then you just quit. And it happens to so many people, I'm sure. Raise your hand if you've been there. Everybody. Yeah. So do what is manageable, but also think about those SMART goals and be reasonable when you're doing things like that, especially something with strength training. I mean, I know cardio can make you sore too, but working your muscles, especially if you haven't strength trained in years, say you even got a set of dumbbells at your house. If you haven't touched them for 5 years and you go all out and do a full body program today, even if it was for a half an hour, you're probably going to be sore for at least the next 2 days. And that soreness sometimes discourages people, and then, or even down the road, you might not get sore and you're like, man, I'm not sore, I'm not doing anything, I might as well just not do it anymore. Which is also one of the bigger mistakes. So being sore doesn't necessarily, it shouldn't guide your programming. Your muscles are going to acclimate to what you're doing. So you will, especially in the beginning of that program, be a little bit sore. Expect that, push through it, but don't be crazy about it. And you're like, okay, well, I'm 2 days in. I have 3 more days this week. So do what is manageable for you. And realistically, going to the gym 5 days a week isn't manageable for a lot of people's schedules. Some people can do that without an issue, but other times that's overwhelming unless you're waking up at 4 a.m. and doing that workout. And if you're not a morning person and you don't like doing that, it's probably not going to last very long. So find something that's smart. Start small. And once you are regularly maybe getting into the gym, or even in your basement, if you're doing your half-hour morning workouts on Monday and Thursday, do that for a month. And you're like, okay, I've got this. I'm in a nice routine. Then the next month, try 3 days a week for the next week. And if it's working for you, keep doing it. That's my recommendation. But with the basics, and you can break it up with like the strength training structure, because I think that gets a lot of people is like, well, I'm here, but what do I do? So again, tons of free resources, whether it's at your house or at the gym. And I know a lot, like over at Anytime, we have an app that you get access to for free with tons of workouts on it. I think Planet Fitness has that too, but even if you're not at a gym paying for like the gym membership, especially again with COVID, tons and tons of free online resources where there are just programs and programs. So I just recommend picking one and go for it. Obviously, hopefully, there's a little bit of knowledge behind it and there's a reason for it. But if you're doing just a regular like resistance training split, I don't know if you guys have heard of like splits, but you can break it up in different ways. Obviously, if you're only doing strength training 2 days a week, it's kind of hard to split it up because you need to be hitting all of the muscle groups. But with anything you're doing, usually at least like 3 times a week, you can mess around with it a little bit. And a lot of that breaks up the monotony too of not doing the same thing every time you're exercising. So you can do, say you're doing 3 days a week, you could do 2 full body days, and then maybe there was a day you just wanted to do abs and cardio. That's still good. You could do 1 upper body day, 1 lower body day, and 1 full body day. So you're still hitting the upper body muscles the first day, lower body muscles the second day, and then a full body on the third day. You're hitting all of those muscle groups again. So that's still good. And programming is hard. Like I said, I could explain those and say upper body day, lower body day, and you're like, cool, that sounds good, but what the heck do you mean? Using resources is super, super important and helpful, especially online. I mean, sometimes you're not going to get the most accurate information, but typically with a Google search or something, you can find some decent information, and then you always have people to ask too. Okay. I think that's pretty much all I have covering that. Does anybody have any questions on any of it? Anything?
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
One, when you say like upper body then lower body, you hear about resting in between.
Yes.
Do you recommend like don't do all 3 days in a row, or does it not matter?
I think it depends. So research kind of goes back and forth, especially recently. My personal recommendation is waiting a couple days between, only to allow, if you have that soreness, to allow it to go away a little bit. But typically, so say you're doing like a 3-day-a-week split where you're doing an upper body, a lower body, and a full body. My recommendation would be doing like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday kind of deal, or depending on how that works for you, upper body and lower body are complete opposites. Yes, to do like Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, or whatever other day worked for you, to allow, because it does take, when you're exercising, and that soreness comes from literal tears, they're small tears in your muscle fibers, and in order to build that strength, those fibers have to regrow, and that's how you get stronger. But some people like working out on sore muscles, so they'll do the full body day right after the lower body day. I personally don't enjoy that, but some people do. But if the only days that you can exercise are, say, they're Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I might say take it a little easier, or pull your weights down, increase your reps so your soreness isn't going to be as high. But if that's what works for you, that's better than doing nothing. So if you can only do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and not do anything Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but every week you can do that religiously, I'd say go for it and make it functional for you. So if you're getting sore and you're like, man, this is just horrible, change up the programming and see if there's something you can do. But yeah, good question.
And my other question is, do you have any recommendations? Is there any better way to fit the cardio in there? I mean, or is it just a preference of what you like?
I think it's a preference of what you like. If you want to mix the cardio with your strength training, you can absolutely do that. And there are tons of ways to do that, whether it's doing an exercise similar to like, I think Beachbody does a lot of like lower weight, higher rep, and then they're throwing the cardio right into the programming. Or you can do, like, we have people at the gym that'll like have the weights behind the treadmill, and they'll do a couple strength training exercises and hop on the treadmill for 5 minutes. So yeah, do whatever works for you, I think, because other people or some people just hate looking at a treadmill and thinking about walking on it for 30 minutes. So that's also a good way to break that up. If you do like a strength training exercise and then you hop on your bike at home for 10 minutes and then you do another strength training exercise, it all adds up as long as you're getting it done. Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I'd rather do the cardio. Now that I've gotten older, the strength training is even more important.
Yes.
Trying to get that in is.
And you're like, I don't love it.
Get the cardio in too, but
right.
I would much rather do cardio than strength training.
Yeah.
So trying to figure out.
Work it in there.
Fit that in.
Yeah. And you can definitely do like, some people laugh at the gym, but like you'll see people sometimes walking on the treadmill with dumbbells, like doing bicep curls. They're doing shoulder presses. Yeah. And that might be something that you like. It's killing two birds with one stone. just don't fall. Don't hit anybody with it. Yeah. So if that works for you, or if you're like, I know like spin bikes are coming back with all the Peloton and everything. And I see videos, I think like some of the Peloton bikes have dumbbells that connect to the back. So I think they're working in the strength training with that cardio while you're on the spin bike. It might, I was going to say, I personally, I don't know, it might fall off. But I don't know how they work that in, or if you like hop off of the bike and do a little strength training and then hop back on the bike. But breaking it up however you mentally need to so that you don't hate it as much, that's what I would recommend. And you can try different things. Yes, because that is better than doing something you hate for a month and then quitting and not starting again for another 6 months. Yes, you're welcome. Any other questions? No. Okay. Well, that's all I have. The next meeting will, so it's not going to be on the 29th. It'll be August 5th at 5 o'clock. Got it. Stop.